So this is for people who are not able to attend live today. So this webinar series is co-hosted by the North Carolina Center for Health and Wellness and the North Carolina Falls Prevention Coalition in conjunction with our Regional Falls Prevention Coalition. So this morning, for example, at 10 o'clock, Piedmont Triad hosted a home fit webinar. And today we're really lucky to have some of our regional folks from Cape Fear joining us. So this is truly a partnership across the state to make this happen. If you haven't already done so, if you could please enter in the chat some introductions for us all, your name, if you're associated with an organization, if you could please list that organization. And if you have more than one person in the Zoom room with you, whether or not we can see you or not, we expect a lot of people to join. So especially if we can't see you, if you could let us know how many people are joining in your Zoom room, especially if you're hosting a watch party like Alyssa's doing. So thank you for doing that. So we have a good sense of who's joining us. And if you could stay on mute until the discussion is open, we would appreciate that so we can hear our speakers. And please feel free to use the chat for any questions that come up during the presentation. So the mission of the North Carolina Falls Prevention Coalition is to work to reduce the number of injuries and deaths from falls among adults in North Carolina. Simple statement, but huge task. So you can contact us and join our listserv if you're interested by clicking on this link below, and we'll put all these in the chat. And we will also be sharing the slides and the presentation afterwards. So anyone is welcome to join us in this work. We meet quarterly, and we also have some work groups that work throughout the year. So the theme this year for Falls Prevention Awareness Week is in collaboration with the National Council on Aging, and it's called From Awareness to Action. So awareness is the first crucial step, but we want to make sure we're moving beyond awareness of falls prevention to taking action. So we're hoping that this year, the importance of translating our understanding of what causes falls, what causes someone to be at risk for falls, and turning that into some practical information and actions that people can take. So all of us has a role to play. Each of us, has a role to play in creating real change and making a difference in our communities and in improving the lives of older adults and adults with disabilities. So we hope that what we're sharing this week will help highlight some actions that each of us can take, whether you are a healthcare professional, a community member, caregiver, no matter what role you have, and we each wear multiple hats in our lives, right? That we can keep these possible actions in mind as we're in our daily lives and in our work. So the National Council on Aging has promoted 6 steps to prevent a fall, and today our presentation is focusing on step number 5, which is the home safety assessment. And each of these steps will be highlighted this week in our webinar series. We also have launched a new initiative at the Falls Prevention Coalition called Standing Strong North Carolina. The new website, standingstrongnc.org. And there we've taken those 6 steps and put them into an acronym that we're hoping will help people to remember these steps, which is TEAM. So find your team. So we all need to be involved in falls prevention. And then remember team. Hopefully these 4 letters will help us all remember these steps. So talk is the T. Talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, your family and friends. E is for exercise to improve your balance and strength. A is for act to get your eyes, ears, and feet checked annually. And M is for make your home safer, which is the one we're talking about today. So I'm going to turn it over to Divya now to introduce our topic for the day and our speakers.
Thank you, Ellen. So as you can see on the slide, we have a quote from the National Council on Aging. So thousands of older adults fall at home each year due to common household hazards. So we'll be diving into the topic that you'll be learning more about how to make your home safe by following falls prevention strategies and easy tips. Next slide. So today we have our regional coalition leads from the Cape Fear Falls Prevention Coalition, Wendy and Britney. Brittany comes from the New Hanover County Fire Rescue, and Wendy is from the Wilmington Fire Department. They are the community risk reduction coordinators, and so they'll be talking about the Steps to Safety program. Some of the key learning objectives are to identify reasons older adults are at a greater risk of injuries due to falls and fires, recognize challenges facing fire departments as related to falls, access the National Fire Protection Association Steps to Safety program online, recognize and correct home hazards using knowledge from this lesson and state and local resources, and implement the 8 fall and 8 fire prevention steps to safety. So now we'll turn it over to Wendy and Brittany to present today.
Good morning. Let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. So just to introduce, again, this is my beautiful partner in crime, Britney Melvin from New Hanover County Fire Rescue, and I am Wendy from the Wilmington Fire Department. And what Britney and I often find is that people in the community underestimate what it is that the fire service knows about people and the way they live and the problems that they have inside their homes. So to some of you, it may sound like a weird stretch that the fire department is going to talk about fall prevention, but I think we'll have some interesting insight for you. Brittany, you want to go first?
Sure. So Steps to Safety is again, like she said, it's a program that prevent fire and falls in the home. So we're just gonna jump in and talk about some of those things and go from there. Remember, you can put your questions if you have any, you can put them in the chat and we kind of go from there as well.
All right.
Go ahead.
Go for it, babe.
So again, yes, it promotes a basic fire and fall prevention tactics and support independent living so they can reduce the need for fall-related calls and assistance for day-to-day tasks. We get a lot of those.
It's true. The assistance for day-to-day tasks, that's getting folks, in and out of their cars when they go to doctor's appointments or up and down stairs or on and off the sofa, bed, toilet. So here are some fall prevention statistics, and this comes right from NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association. So you can read with me that 1 in 3 older adults will experience a fall, and sending an average of 1 in 17 to the emergency department every year in the US. And at age 65, older adults are twice as likely as the population at large to be killed or injured by fires. And by age 75, that risk increases to 3 times of the general population. This is a serious situation, and 4 times by the age of 85. So the risk is really just compounding falls and also fires the older adults become, and that there was a 35% increase in invalid assists, known as lift assists from the fire service sometimes, between 2014 and 2017. The fire service now attend more fall calls than fires among older adults. Falls are not a normal part of aging, but they certainly seem to be becoming that way.
Definitely. So we as a fire department, we partner with other organizations to decide the best approach to the local senior population. We look at our local data and the resources that are available, and we make sure that we're providing that information, such as additional information on smoke alarm program and our lockbox programs and grab bar installation services and other wraparound services. So it's so many different partners that we have out there that can help us provide these services, as well as us providing those services for our communities.
So interesting, lockbox program is a way to, for caregivers or even first responding personnel to be able to get in and out of homes of older adults that have a serious risk or like a track record of falling instead of fire or other first responders kind of breaking down the door, right? And it's kind of recognizing the risk and getting ahead of those calls. So here are some challenges for the fire service is that older adults we know are resistant to change. Lots of people are resistant to change, right? But older adults are often attached to their unsafe behaviors. If we could count, Brittany and I, the number of times that an older adult has said, well, I've been smoking in my bed or on my sofa for 40 years and nothing has ever happened to me, right? We just know that that's just like a tiny ember away from a really, really horrible situation. So older adults being attached to those unsafe behaviors and the fact that nothing has happened yet is actually a dangerous thought, right? Because we know that bad things happen even when you don't mean them to.
It
The
only
little
takes
vice,
one time.
it sure does. One stray ember, one
It didn't
breeze.
happen until it happened.
The vice and the penny down there represent the fact that people's budgets are being stretched to the limit. It is really expensive to find in-home care. We know this already. It's really expensive to find out-of-home care in the home, in the, like rehab facilities or residential spaces for older adults. That's expensive. And inflation is happening and bills are piling up and older adults are often driven to pinch pennies. And we know that safety devices and safety precautions take a really back seat to regular functions like rent and food, right? Transportation. So if we're counting on people to spend money on safety situations or places or ways to keep themselves safe, we can kind of mark that off because there are other priorities. The other thing that we find when we're visiting homes is that older adults often have tons of clutter, right? And those clutters started out very, very benign, but after 40 or 50 years of living in the same house, all those things that all those recipes in the Reader's Digest that folks meant to use end up clutter. And not only are those trip hazards, but that's also fuel for a fire. So there's some things that I'm sorry, Britt.
Magazines, old newspapers, all of
Yeah,
that.
all those things, clothing even. So these are some of the challenges the fire service are facing. Unsafe behaviors, not a lot of disposable income for safety, and then that clutter situation is a regular problem that Brittany and I see.
Yeah. And then let me add to that, then sometimes it's the issue of just not having someone to help remove the clutter. Once it's already kind of gotten out of control, getting someone to take it out or help them go through it is that issue there. Also, when it comes to aging in place, like as we already talked about, money is an issue. That's without saying, and the cost of living is steadily going up. So older adults are on a more of a fixed income most of the time. And the fact of the matter is, like she already said, is that you can't expect that they're going to prioritize fixing up the home or doing different things in order to live safely. And so that's where those lift assists come in, because they are having to live in their home and make the most of what they have. So they need help getting in and out of their home. So when you see a home with stairs and a person cannot get up and down those stairs, then they're going to need help. So they call us and they want us to come in. They want us to help them. They may need help getting on and off the toilet because they need grab bars or things like that where it can help lift them up, or the fact of the matter, they just can't simply just get to the toilet. So it's those issues, and the same difference with the bed, in and out the bed, as we talked about earlier, is just the fact that they're not able to move the way they used to. They're not able to get around and get up and go. And so we get calls for lift assist constantly to help with getting from one place to the other. And it's just a matter of making those adjustments in the home. And again, that's a cost that comes at a cost.
It's true. And you know what else? We right now, Wilmington Fire has two frequent utilizers that are both related to falls that are like right at the top of my mind, and they do not have a support system. So not only are their finances really tight, but they're aging in place in houses that used to be inhabited by, husbands and children and friends, and now they're very isolated in a way and don't have somebody to call. That the friends are aging too, so the neighbor that they used to call to help get them down the stairs can't help anymore. This is a problem that is only increasing for us in the fire service, and really for us as a country.
Yes.
My buttons.
So steps of safety is centered around the 16 steps. As we mentioned earlier, you're going to learn about 8 steps that's going to be geared towards fire. And then when we finish with fire, we're going to go into the 8 steps that's geared towards fall prevention. And so these were developed by experts from the national and local safety organizations across the US and Canada. So they're proven to work. And so we want you to be able to leave here and with some decisions that you have to make, some choices and ways that you can make changes in your own home that you can implement easily.
Yeah, these are easily implemented things, Brittany. You're right. These are not anything new and revolutionary. I mean, we're going to talk about wearing good shoes. That's just as basic as it gets when it's fall prevention related, right? So this is nothing new and like fancy fangled. This is just the basics. You want to do fire? You want me to do fire, Brittany? I can't remember.
We were alternating, so you go first.
Okay, so we're going to talk first about 8 steps for fire safety. And as we get to the end of these slides, Brittany and I will tell you how to access this information, but everything that you see moving forward from here is something you can find online. You can ask your, fire service, you can pull these up yourself. It's all free and available for use, and, consistent messaging is important. So as, people travel from place to place, or as people talk in other places, these messages being the same is super important. So the first fire safety card has to do with smoking, and it's encouraging older adults to provide smokers with large, deep ashtrays. Smoking fires are still, in the state of North Carolina and in the country as a whole, the #1 cause of fatal fires, because a lot of smoking fires end up developing after the person has the last cigarette of the day and go on to bed and are awakened by the sound or the visuals that come along with fire. So encouraging folks to have large, sturdy ashtrays for their visitors or themselves is important, and to not smoke in bed, and to avoid smoking on oxygen, which is something that we see a lot. And actually, the large deep ashtrays keep people from using things like potted plants to put cigarette butts out in. So it's all about safety and preventing what we know is the result of just inappropriately discarded smoking materials. So a second thought isn't really important right now, but it will be in a few months to us, giving space heaters space as circulation kind of slows down. And also heating bills go up. People rely on space heaters to warm themselves, and keeping a space heater on throughout the night is just one of the most dangerous things you could do. In aging structures where the electrical system isn't so great, using a space heater that draws a lot of power is a dangerous thing in and of itself. But then also that clutter we mentioned before, being close to those heaters, the blanket that's pictured here, or socks, furniture, all a dangerous combo when it comes to space heaters. So we're encouraging space heaters to have space. A third step when it relates to fire safety is staying in the kitchen when frying and cooking on the stovetop. And this card is pretty specific. Frying is high temperature, and cooking on the stovetop is where the fire service in this state and in the country see the most fires. The most frequent reason that firefighters have to respond to people's homes in relation to fire is because of stovetop cooking. And the fire service as a whole is trying to encourage people to lower the temperature. You don't have to cook on high. And of course, frying requires high temperature cooking. So encouraging older adults and their caregivers to pull up their sleeves and avoid cooking when you're sleepy because you've had alcohol or medication. And just be aware that stovetop cooking is still pretty dangerous. This is the old message that we know, for years and years. When the fire truck comes, the kids know to shout out, "Stop, drop, and roll" if your clothes are on fire. Still a super relevant message for older adults. If you end up with fire on your clothes, stopping and dropping and rolling is the way to pat those flames out. You don't have to worry about getting back up, just worry about getting down and rolling. This card also talks about if you're a bystander to someone who has fire on their clothes, using a rug or a blanket to kind of extinguish those flames, and then even goes into cooling a burn with cool water and getting medical attention. So that message kind of has morphed from kids to older adults, still super valid and very helpful should you find yourself in that situation. Another thing that the fire service in North Carolina as a whole is super proactive about is smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. We talked about that disposable income not being there, and smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms could be expensive. And many people don't know that smoke alarms, the life of a smoke alarm is just 10 years. So if you've been living in your house for 30 or 40 years and you've never had any new smoke alarm installed, you may not be protected the way you think you're protected. So this card focuses on the importance of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. But in our state, we're super lucky that our state's fire marshal's office and most of our fire service organizations locally have smoke alarm programs and often carbon monoxide programs. Just so we all know, smoke, of course, smoke alarms capture smoke from fires, but carbon monoxide alarms capture carbon monoxide, which is odorless, colorless, and comes from the use of fossil fuels. So in our cooking slide just a second ago, we saw the use of a gas stove. That's why you would need a carbon monoxide if you're drying your clothes or heating your water with a fossil fuel. Those carbon monoxide alarms would be necessary. Card 6 for fire safety has to do with planning and practicing your escape. This illustration is someone from the fire service kind of guiding a resident through how to get out. It's a front door, a back door, a window, or at least getting yourself to a position where firefighters could see you, closing doors behind you and coming to a window. So it's talking through individual scenarios with people about how to get out and how to plan their escape, just in case. And knowing the local emergency number too, 911 is critical. And then how to answer questions that 911 is asking you, like what's your address? Do you have an apartment number? And then who else can you have 911 connect you to? Should you need assistance from other family members, just making sure you know that 911 number and what sorts of information 911 needs from you to help get you the response that you need quickly and support you any way they can. And the last fire safety card has to do with planning your escape again. And this time it's talking about planning your escape around your abilities. So are you having trouble moving quickly? Do you need wheels to help you get from place to place? And are those things situated close to your bed so that you can get out quickly? In this illustration, you see this person making sure the cane is close to the bed just in case they need to make a quick escape or even to the bathroom at night, right? And you see a flashlight and glasses and a telephone also on that bedside table. But the white box that you see has to do with a bed shaking smoke alarm. Our state supports a company called Lifetone in delivering Lifetone smoke alarms, bed shaking smoke alarms to departments around our state. So reach out to your local fire service and see if they can connect some of your folks with bed shaking technology, which of course shakes people awake instead of relying only on the audible sound of a smoke alarm to wake you up and give you early warning to get out fast. Any thoughts on those fire prevention questions? Oh, there's Lifetone. Thank you, Divya. Lifetone link is in the chat right now. All right. So fire prevention, super important, 8 easy steps.
Let's get into fall prevention. All right. So one of the first things is to make sure that you're exercising on a regular basis. We want to make sure that we're building our strength. Over time, we have the tendency to lose that strength. If we're not using it, you lose it. So you want to make sure that you're going to improve it, and because that's going to make sure that your balance is good, your coordination is good, and everything else. So when you're just doing basic exercises, that's going to help. If you're not already exercising, then you want to make sure that you talk to your doctor and make sure that you pick a routine or whatever type of physical activity is going to work good for you and not work against what you and your doctor already have discussed. And then we want to make sure that we're taking our time when we're getting up. We can't just jump up and go, the doorbell ring or whatever. Like, we can't do that. We need to make sure that we're moving slowly. You want to make sure that you're using a sturdy chair, one that can, help assist you with the handles on the side and everything. rolling chairs, make sure that you're careful with those. I was doing a presentation earlier and they had rolling chairs, and I had to make sure I put emphasis on rolling chairs. Make sure that you're careful with those. But you want to make sure that when you're getting up slowly, you're standing there for a second to get your balance, and then you're stepping. And even before getting out of bed, you want to make sure that you're sitting on the side of the bed first before just hopping up, because that can, make you a little dizzy sometimes. So you want to make sure that you're taking your time and being aware of your surroundings and everything before you start moving. Stairways and pathways and walking areas, y'all, they have to remain clear, because on a lot of cases, we put things in places where they shouldn't be all the time. You may put your shoes there saying, I'll move them when I come back through. I just want to take them off right here and I'll get them when I come back. Or you have the pile of the newspapers or the magazines we were discussing earlier, those recipes that you piled up because you had all these recipe books. But we want to make sure that they're not blocking our pathways. They're not blocking the walking areas or anything like that. You want to make sure that if you have area rugs or anything like that, that they're staying flat so that they're not blocking your ways, and you're using your handrails. So as you see here, he's going up the stairs and he's holding that basket. So you want to make sure that you have handrails on both sides, because whether you're going up or coming down or whatever hand you want to use at the time, you can be able to do that. You also, as you see again with that basket, it's not overloaded. He's able to hold it on one side. So you don't want to fill up things or take really heavy things where you need both hands and you can't put that hand on the rail. So you want to, take more trips, but make sure that they're lighter when you're doing it. And sometimes you can possibly use a first alert, one of those medical necklaces that's going to alert the emergency personnel when if you take a fall. Sorry for that. If you take a fall. Also, if you don't like those necklaces, there's a lot of people that don't. But one thing that came up is like the Apple Watch has the notification that if you take a fall, you can put in SOS or no, it's not. It's okay because it wasn't a fall or whatever. But that's something where if you don't want to wear something around your neck, you can just a simple watch, and it can help notify anybody in case of anything happen. But make sure, again, keeping those walkways clear, and cord, shoes, clothing, anything, just keeping it clear so that you don't have a trip hazard.
I had a vision of my mom saying, your clothes are on the stairs, take them up when you go, right? We just can't do that anymore.
And when it comes to improving the lighting in your outside and your inside, right? Sometimes light bulbs blow. So we haven't changed them outside, but we're walking in the dark. Branches can fall, anything can happen. So you want to make sure that at all times you keep good lighting outside, especially if you're ever coming in at nighttime. You want to be able to see. The same difference when you're inside. We take for granted that this is our house, our home. We know where everything is. We know how to get to this point from the bed to the bathroom, all of that. But think about it. Sometimes things fall. Sometimes we have pets that like to bring those silly chew toys that are soaked in their drool, waiting for us to step on it in the center of the floor. Sometimes it's a shoe, right? Anything can happen, and maybe you move something and you just forgot for that moment, and you're on your way to the bathroom. We don't want that to be something that you're tripping over, right? So have night lights. You can have the simple night lights that's motion sensor, which is a great one just because you don't have to worry about turning it on. Or you can get the ones, of course, you can put them in the outlets, the regular ones, and have them on when the time comes. You go ahead and turn them all on before you go to bed to make sure that you're able to still sleep. But if you get up, you don't have to worry about it. But if it's a simple just hitting the switch, if you have to leave the room or something, hitting the switch, make sure you do that, because we want to make sure that you can see your way clear and make sure that nothing that you wasn't expecting is there in order to avoid tripping over it. The same difference goes with the stairwells. If you have stairs, making sure that your lights are working on at your staircase, and also making sure that you see your doctor each year to check your eyes, because our eyes may not be the same from one year to the next. All of our eyes, it seems like they change every year. They'll say just a little bit, but that little bit can make a huge difference sometimes. And we don't want it to be that you think that you see a certain thing at that place or whatever, and it's actually a little bit closer and you trip over it. So it can happen.
Ellen says in the chat, turn on the lights, especially when sleeping in new, unfamiliar place. This is how my mom felt. And fell, and she didn't want to bother the hosts. That's very interesting. I mean, think about hotels and traveling, visiting other people. Great thought, Ellen.
Yes. Especially if you're living with someone else too. You put something there, but they put it somewhere else and now it's in the way.
True.
Yes. And use non-slip mats, grab bars. You know those mats like the ones pictured here? You can use that also outside of the tub. You don't necessarily have to just use it outside of, inside of the shower or the tub or whatever. You can use it outside, because that way it's going to be something that's going to prevent you from instantly slipping as soon as you get out. That's one of my biggest tips. I love the share, but those non-slip mats are great. Also, those grab bars, you can put them up. One of the ideas today was making sure you put it beside the toilet, because after that great workout, your legs may be too tired to want to get up. So making sure that you have grab bars, and there's resources out there that can help with that if you have any issues with getting those. But grab bars, shower, toilet, all of those things where you need that extra right? If you're doing a remodel, make sure you get them installed. That should be like a must with all bathrooms. And then if you spill something, making sure that you're going ahead and getting it up. So let's say you just got out of the shower, you got water all over the floor. Go ahead and make that a priority to get that up. That's not, I'll come back to it. You spilled a cup in the kitchen, get that up, especially if you live with someone else. They may come through before you get it up. So you want to make sure that you don't have time to forget about it. We want to go ahead and make that a priority. Stop what we're doing, clean that up right then and there, because we do not want to slip on that later. Be aware of uneven surfaces. So one of the things, I taught a class and this lady was telling me that she tripped over the sidewalk where it was uneven. She did not see it. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention. When she tripped, she got seriously injured and she had to wait for someone to come and help her. So you don't want to be the person that's waiting on somebody else, because you want to know that you are being vigilant and you're seeing all the cracks in the sidewalk and you're not going to hit them, right? So you're going to pay attention to your surroundings and making sure that everything is smooth. I said earlier something about the throw rugs, the same difference. You want to make sure that if your throw rugs are starting to curl at the edges, go ahead and get one of those tapes that you can stick it back down. If the tape is no longer working, it's time for the rug to go. You're going to have to choose between you falling and that rug. And I'm hoping that you would choose yourself first. Okay. You want to make sure that they're great with the skid, non-skid pads on the bottom and everything. Carpeting, if it's starting to fold or it has that little indentation in it, it could be a trip hazard. So you want to be mindful and try to get that fixed as soon as possible. And just making sure that if you're in an area where it snows, we don't see much of that here at all, but if you're in an area that snows or ice, that you go ahead and get someone, a friend, a neighbor, someone else to kind of try to clear that off for you, salt and all that stuff beforehand and everything. But make sure that you're go ahead and getting that handled by someone else, because we don't want you out there and having that increased risk of falling as well. Again, using those handrails, that is important. If you have the opportunity going up the steps somewhere, paying attention, holding those rails as you go up the stairs. As she talked about earlier, those sturdy shoes. Yes, this is, of course, the most common thing that you can do is wearing the right shoes. I love to make sure that I put emphasis on pantyhose, because when a woman put on pantyhose and she is getting ready to go somewhere, it's the pantyhose is put on over here, but the shoes are over there. We do not want you slipping and sliding on your way to get the sturdy shoes. We want you to go ahead and have them, or at least have a nice sturdy slipper that you can put on that's going to, have that good skid proof at the bottom that's going to prevent you from falling in the meantime. We do not want to walk around in pantyhose or socks. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have on the right shoes. And the low-heeled non-slip soles, they're not just for outside. We want them inside as well to keep us safe. So we're going to do that. And those stilettos, make sure that your heel is the right height for you. Okay, we all love to be cute, but make sure that we keep it cute and safe. Okay.
Great point. No stilettos.
All right. So having a list of all your current medications, that is key as well. Sometimes we are already on a medication. It can be a simple herb or some type of vitamin or whatever, but it could interact with a different medication. So every time you get a new medication, already know what medications you're on, and talk to a pharmacist about those medications. See if they can cause dizziness or anything like that as well. Because if you're starting a new medication, you want to know that, you know, it may cause dizziness. So you want to try and take this with someone around. So just in case it does cause that dizziness, you're not at a higher risk of falling or anything like that. So just something to be mindful of. Again, talking to the doctor about your balance and everything else. If you're already having issues or anything like that, just making sure that medication could be a cause. And if it is, maybe it's a different one that you can take or whatever. But just figuring all of that out. So here are the 8 tips that we've talked about. They are resources of the different things that we've used with the details, as well as a resource list. There is a link to this website where you can get all of these resources, create your escape plan and all of that.
And as we're talking about some of those tips, the escape planning, of course, this is a printable bit of information right from NFPA. So if you were to Google escape planning, you would be able to find some of the same information that you see here, or even steps to safety. And I see that Ellen has put in the chat a medicine list. Here are some lists you can use for medications. And then the next one is a medical, a council on aging medical record document. So all helpful things. And the whole idea of this presentation had to do with home safety, right? This is the component we're on today. And that's one of the really great things about the Steps to Safety program, is that one of the components that's easy to find online and use with your presentation directly relates back to home safety checklists. So these checklists, free and printable, give you the opportunity to either hand out this information to the older adults that you're working with, or the fire service or a caregiver could go through this list with a person, talking about the same things that are covered in those cards. So smokers, do you have ashtrays? Do you have how to put a pan fire out on a stove top? Do you know what to do if your clothes catch on fire, and all the on the falls side of things, keeping those walking areas clear? It's a yes or no answer. You either are doing it or you need improvement, right? So I love this component to the Steps to Safety. I just think that's great. And Ellen has put Steps to Safety and public education links in the chat. So thank you for that, Ellen.
So here is a list of some state resources. NC BAM is one of those resources that can come out and help with smoke alarms. Did they do the grab bars?
They can, and then also the ramps.
Yep. And then your AARP, they are a great resource for many different things, but definitely with your fall prevention resources that's available. American Red Cross can help with your smoke alarms, as well as they have several different resources, but the smoke alarms is the main one that we use them for canvassing and everything else, and make sure that everyone has those smoke alarms that they need. And then, of course, the North Carolina Falls Prevention Coalition is always here. They can link you up with your local coalition and everything. So those are great state resources.
And the local resources, reach into your community to find helpers, right? The local fire department. Most of the local fire departments in the state, I've already mentioned, have smoke alarm programs. So they can assist your older adults with testing smoke alarms, making sure that they're working, changing batteries perhaps, but then also removing or installing smoke alarms to make sure that those audible cues are there for an early warning. Community paramedics, not all, but some communities have community paramedics whose main job is to reduce readmission to hospital. And of course, that's through prevention, keeping people on their feet. Local rebuilding agencies. I know in Wilmington, we have a group that's called WARM, Wilmington Area Rebuilding Ministry. And that group will help with ramps, or help with uneven surfaces in the home, or resecuring or building railings inside and outside homes. And of course, faith communities, which is where NC BAM pulls from. faith communities often have helpers, groups, men's groups, teen groups that can build ramps or can help reattach those railings or even help clean out some clutter. YMCA locally is great for swimming and exercise resources, which is, of course, one of our important fall prevention tips. And groups like Habitat for Humanity and local area agencies on aging are also good resources for all kinds of things. So you've got some state resources and also local resources to help prevent falls and fires, injury, and worse for our older adult populations.
Here's the QR code where you can scan if you have access to your phone right now. If you're not on it, you can scan the QR code and it's going to take you to a site. But I also put that link in the chat as well. And it's going to take you straight to the steps to safety where, let's just say that you want to educate your community on this as well. You can find all these resources we discussed on that link. Other information as far as video and stuff like that is going to be coming, as far as a virtual like home safety check and all of that is coming to the website.
That's great. And Rosalind has a question in the chat about fire extinguishers. So fire extinguishers are a tricky situation for young people and for older adults. Fire extinguishers keep you in the house longer, right? So if you have a fire, and you are able-bodied and confident in your use of a fire extinguisher, and you know how to use a fire extinguisher, like small fires, and have an exit in mind, right? You can use an extinguisher. But for a vast majority of older adults, Brittany and I would recommend that fire extinguisher is not your go-to resource. Evacuation is what we would encourage people to do. Just get out and call the professionals to assist you. Your safety is way more important than risking it by staying inside longer and, you know, fighting through the process of a fire extinguisher. That said, Rosalind, fire extinguishers usually last like 7 to 10 years, depending on whether or not you're maintaining them by kind of flipping them and keeping that powder loose inside. And then also placement of fire extinguishers is very important. Not under your sink where it gets kind of pushed to the back of all the chemicals and cleaning products, but somewhere out and on the way to an exit at home, just like you would find it in public at the grocery stores or the doctor's offices. So extinguishers should be located at or on the way to exits. They should be checked to make sure that they're in good working order, and their life can be extended just a bit longer by flipping that extinguisher, kind of patting it on its bottom end to make sure that that powder stays loose in there. But definitely consider the fact that people that are slowing down mobility wise should just go quickly outside instead of messing around with anything that would keep them inside longer. Anything else on that thought, Britt?
I would just add making sure that you notify everyone else if they're in the home with you.
Oh, yes, yes.
As soon as it happens, go ahead and let everyone know it's a fire. Even if you're staying there to use the extinguisher or whatever, let everyone know so they have that choice too, whether or not they're staying.
That's a great point. Yes, thank you for adding that. So has everybody had enough time to get this QR scanned or have found the info they need in the chat? All right. So what do you have for us? This is a great program. It's easy to use. So if your local fire service doesn't offer this, you can so easily implement it. It's great with groups. It's great with individuals. And if your fire service hasn't heard of it, suggest to them that it's easy to use and that you'd love to see it from them.
Yes, and it's free. Like, it's something that they can get the training for free. They can go through NFPA, and that's part of that link that I sent you all, and they can contact someone and see about getting a training local so that they can do the whole trainer and everything else and be able to feel even more confident in teaching it.
Absolutely. And there's also a fun component, Brittany, that pop kind of trivia questions. There is a component that you can find online that is that pairs safety questions that come right from the program, from those 8 fall and fire prevention steps, with pop culture questions. So like a question about who sang the twist, and you know, you have these these folks raise their hand. Don't argue, just raise your hand and, tell me that you know the answer. It's chubby checker. Yes, it is. And then to be able to win a prize or be the queen of the room or whatever you want your reward to be, they have to answer a safety question also that comes directly from this presentation. So it's a good reinforcement after the lesson is already taught.
So Wendy and Britt, I have a question. How long does it take for you to do this in a community setting? Like just the presentation that you just did for us and the trivia maybe, and then is it okay for just anybody to call their local fire department and ask about this?
You want to take it, Britt?
You can definitely ask, but the length of time is all based on kind of where you can work with whoever is asking. So let's just say they want a presentation that's only on falls. You can take this and split it up easily. But if you want to kind of like, we just done this in what, 30 something minutes, maybe about 40 minutes. So if you want to do the whole thing, you want to do the whole, just go straight to the point, you can complete it in 40-45 minutes. But I say the best, I always ask for an hour and I can cover everything that I need to cover in an hour. But if you really have a group that wants to, ask a lot of questions and really include that trivia and everything else, I would say maybe an hour and a half, just to make sure you have time for questions and just to really have fun and give out prizes and everything.
It's true. And, I was just thinking, well, in one case, there is an older apartment building that's having a lot of trouble with elevators in Wilmington right now. And elevators don't get used for emergency, right? But the idea that older adults are having to navigate a lot of stairs, I'm going to go floor to floor and present this program. So it's going to take me a few hours to get through this whole 4-story building. But I feel like the individual hallways will benefit from having the time to talk it through. And also in planning your escape around your abilities, depending on what floor these folks are on, their need to evacuate or their way to evacuate is going to change, right, from floor to floor. But another thought that I had is that most often when Britney and I are presenting this program to like residential settings, like independent or assisted living facilities, it usually draws in questions for management about, well, I haven't had my smoke alarm checked, or I haven't seen anyone do that, or, they told me I'm supposed to stay in my room when the alarm sounds. So it often elicits discussion that's bigger than you, bigger than your fire service, and more like community based. So if you are in a group setting, it's often good to have a member of the management of the location that you are, in case some of those questions arise and you're not the expert on the answers, right? Bring that person in so that those questions about evacuation or maintenance when it comes to safety devices, the expert is there with you and you're not having to answer questions that you just don't know the answers to. Anybody have anything else? All right, Ellen, and back to you.
Wendy, Brittany, thank you so much for kicking off our first webinar series on addressing home safety for Falls Prevention Awareness Week. These were extremely informative tips and resources that you shared, so we'll be sure to get all of these materials on our website, as well as a recording for folks to tune in and listen to afterwards as well.
Thank you, Divya.
Thank you.
We have a couple conclusionary slides, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Thank you. While Divya is pulling up her screen, I just love the resources created by this program. They're just straightforward and so clear and really helpful. And y'all did a great job presenting them too. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Good job, Brittany.
All right, so I just wanted to share this really helpful one-pagers that the National Council on Aging has created. So for today's step, they've created the Avoid Falls at Home, 5 Easy Ways to Make Your Home Safer tool. So we encourage you all to check out this resource. And there's also a full article that goes into each of these steps. So Ellen will post this on the chat for you all. And then we have some additional resources. So we just launched the Standing Strong NC website. You'll find easy to find resources and action steps to prevent falls. And one of the pages or tabs is actually the Make Your Home Safer page. So in that page, you'll find a handy list to make your home safer, resources in your area, preventing falls at home. You can look at it room by room and find some helpful tips, as well as many other resources that we've linked. And then on our NC Falls Prevention website, you'll find things about partnerships, resources, action plan, and evidence-based strategies. So we also have a home safety resource page that has the CDC mobility plan. We have the AARP Home Fit Guide from Bob's presentation this morning, the NIH Aging Fall Proofing Your Home tool, as well as various other ones. And then you'll see our Healthy Aging NC page, where you could find evidence-based falls prevention and health promotion programs. The CDC Study Initiative and the National Council on Aging are also helpful resources for y'all to check out. So we just want to end this presentation today by stating that Falls Prevention Awareness Week is a call to action. It urges individuals and communities to take proactive measures in preventing falls. By actively addressing this issue, we are not only enhancing the overall well-being of individuals, but also creating a collective force for positive change. Together, our efforts can have a significant impact on falls prevention, fostering safer environments and healthier lives for all. If you are in a watch party today, which we saw from the chat, some of you all have like 5 or 10 members within your groups today. These are some of the discussion questions that you guys can dive into afterwards. So you could talk about some possible fire dangers or risks in your homes and collectively addressing them together, how you can involve and teach other family members about some of the things you learned today. Share your personal stories with each other about how fire safety practices or falls prevention measures have made a big difference in your lives or others, and just discuss some practical tips together in your groups. And tomorrow's webinar is on caring conversations with family members. We have Rosalie Carlico from AARP NC discussing how to have these conversations with your family members. So we invite you all to come back tomorrow and the rest of the week for our webinar series. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you to Brittany and Wendy, especially for presenting. That was really helpful and actually fun to think about.
Thank you.
I like that you find ways to make it fun, like the pantyhose example, and because some of these topics can be hard for people to talk about.
Yes, a lot of the times that is the case. We were talking about, I had to go to the